He's recognized.
Thank you very much. And let me thank our ranking member for her unwavering leadership on our committee on so many issues. Thank you, Congresswoman Lloyd. Let me thank also our chairman for continuing to try to help us work in a bipartisan way to bring a real labor H bill to the floor. This continuing resolution, it contains, yes, critical and much-needed funding to address the Ebola crisis in Africa. It also, though, includes across-the-board cuts, which will negatively impact my congressional district, all of our congressional districts, and countless households across America. For example, this CR includes 2 different cuts to the temporary assistance for needy families. It includes a $14 million reduction in the TANF contingency fund and a $15 million reduction that will eliminate TANF research funds that are used, mind you, by the Department of Health and Human Services to evaluate the effectiveness of TANF programs and to develop approaches for improving employment outcomes among TANF recipients. These cuts are unnecessary and come at a time when people are literally living on the edge. It's unacceptable that at a time when we are passing short-term funding bills that underfunded public health and workforce training programs, we're now providing over $80 billion in war funding. The American people expect Congress to create jobs, to strengthen our economy, and to ensure that our security funds are wisely spent. With sequester cuts looming, it's time that we focus that spending here at home. Finally, let me just address the upcoming debate and vote on funding to arm and train Syrian rebels. This should not be an amendment to the continuing resolution. National security issues should not be an afterthought to funding the government. Now, not a single person in this body thinks that the United States should stand idle while ISIS wreaks havoc in the Middle East. This is a sectarian civil war where the use of force and arming and training rebels will place us in the middle of a war where most recognize there is no military solution. So before we expand the airstrikes in Iraq and to vote to provide weapons and training to rebels in Syria, Congress must have a thorough and robust debate on the long-term implications of taking such actions. May I have an additional 30 seconds? Thank you. I have grave concerns about the specific proposal to arm and train the Syrian Free Army, which will be voted on tomorrow by this House. And I intend to address this further during the debate on the McCain Amendment. How can we ensure the U.S. weapons and training don't end up in the wrong hands? Where will we know when our objectives have been met and when ISIS has been contained or eliminated? How will we avoid getting embroiled in a civil war? And Congress must weigh all of the options before us, not just the military ones, before we make any decision on committing the U.S. to yet another long-term war. This is the type of debate that we failed to have in the wake of 9/11 and which resulted in the passage of an overly broad authorization that continues to be used today. So we must ask the hard questions, not only about the current proposal to arm and train Syrian rebels, but about the entire strategy. May I have 10 seconds more? We must...
Gentlelady's recognized.
Thank you. Finally, let me just say, we cannot become embroiled in another war. The costs and the consequences to our national security, to our brave men and women in uniform, and to our ability to continue to nation build here at home must be laid out to the public. That's our constitutional duty and responsibility. Unfortunately, we get a pass with this congressional resolution.